that God would be glorified, because this has been excruciating. This is nearly, there's no words to explain the breaking process of all of the family, of ourselves, of our relationship, of everything else. But if God is glorified and people are brought closer in their relationship with Him, or brought to a new relationship with Him, it's worth it. It's all, every moment, every day, every question, every thought, every difficulty, it's all worth it.
Does it feel like home? Does it feel like home? Does it feel like home? Will I ever know what it feels like home?
What you just saw was a clip from the 2006 TCS Films production, The Leavitt House, from Deterioration to Renovation. However, it has been, as of this taping, 7 years since that production, and a lot has happened since. With the restoration project of this particular house complete, and made completely into a regular bed and breakfast. A lot has surely happened since, and it's about time I catch you up on things, as Chapter 8 of your guidebook on how to survive missions starts now. It's not a bad drive this time around, 15.7 miles northeast of TCS Films HQ, in nearby a town named Walton, nearby Lincoln, Nebraska, where we find an interesting place, an interesting locale in Prairie Creek Inn. We're bringing in our next guests right from their abode, Bruce and Maureen Stahr, and I'm going to compliment you guys for being the first duo we've had so far on the series, and so thanks for at least taking the time. How long have we known each other again?
34 years.
We've known each other longer than I've been alive.
No, we've known you.
Oh.
How long have you known each other? 34 years. How long have I known you?
Yes.
We met you in 1992.
Yeah.
So that would be 21 years.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny? I moved to Nebraska in 1992. It had to be within weeks of us moving in when we first met you.
Yeah, it was in our basement in a minute for a while when we first came.
Nice.
That was our missions apartment, and he was one of the needy people that needed the apartment.
Yeah. Who knows when my mom and I slept?
Still coming from either Iowa or South Dakota. Transition. Stayed with us for a while.
Well, in the meantime, well, here we are. It's been, well, I think it's been interesting the way it's been. I mean, watching you boys grow and myself growing with them. And also seeing kind of your little transition, because it seems as though you would live in that relatively, I'll consider it a large house, over in Bennett for quite a while, but now all of a sudden you're here. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see exactly kind of what went on in that transition as we get started. So first off, two-part question, but I'll ask it in multiple parts. First off, for the benefit of those who haven't seen the Leavitt House yet, I hope you do one of these days, define and explain. Go.
Define and explain
The Leavitt House.
the Leavitt House. Well, it has 4 levels. There's a living room on each of the 4 floors. There's 6 bedrooms. Great big dining room, parlor, nice place to have people come and stay for a while. Big groups or just couples for any weekend getaway. It's been all completely remodeled over the last few years, and we're glad to be able to offer it to people now.
Prairie Creek Inn. Define, explain.
Prairie Creek Inn has a mission statement, and that is making memories that matter in country quiet comfort. And that has, since we were certified for opening our doors in July of 2010, that this has been the home for hundreds and hundreds of people to come in and make memories that have mattered in country quiet comfort.
And definitely want to. I definitely want to get to that. But first off, this has been quite a long journey per se in the terms of the restoration of this house. As you may recall, at the end of the 11th house, from Deterioration to Renovation, we had a guy named Shane Miller show us a little bit of a tour of the house, but it was still an unfinished project. There was still lots of flooring and
Drywall.
yes, I mean there's lots of stuff that still needed to happen come 2006. So first off, let's quickly do like a quick thumbnail of the journey of getting the house to this location, and then we'll go from there. Go.
Okay. I think the easiest way would be to put it in about 6 two-year periods. And it's interesting that all of the components kind of each took about that long. The first one,
First 6 minutes, first 6 years. Let's go relatively quickly here.
the
Go.
first 2
Yeah.
years was planning and trying to make this whole thing even come, literally get it off the ground. And the next 2 years was spent pretty much just getting the original farmhouse and barn fixed up here, and very little work done on this house. Then we spent 2 years fixing this up diligently with mostly our sons, helped, and some other friends. And we moved in at that point, and the video you referenced before was taken right before we moved in. However, it wasn't really very nice, ready to live in, so we spent 2 more years getting it nicer to live in, and put tile on the floors and trim around the doorways and made it a little more presentable and comfortable. And at that point, we got an occupancy permit and we could live here. And we spent 2 more years upgrading it to be a bed and breakfast, and we've been open for a little more than 2 years now.
So, what's been? Oh, sorry. Luke Stahr has joined us today, and will participate in the questioning for this very thing. And Luke, it's terrific to have you on once again.
Thank you.
So, what's up?
Thank you. Not a lot. The ceiling at this point is up, but I appreciate to be
And
here.
a fan.
And a fan.
One of the biggest fans.
Yes. So it's been 6 two-year periods that you had mentioned, and that's a very neat way, an organized way to consider the time that's passed by. And as it's been a decade since the house has actually been moved, what are maybe 2 or 3 things that have stood out to the both of you that you have specifically seen God work in maybe your lives, or has worked in the whole of making the bed and breakfast and the entire farm a possibility? And how do you?
I can kind of answer. One thing to me was that this is a project of impossibilities. There was nothing about that, about this project, about the house move, about the securing the farm, or anything that seemed like it would go. We talked to 7 bankers before we found one that would come along with us. There was absolutely nothing that we could bring into it other than hard work and a lot of energy and some willing people that would come alongside of us. The people that came into this project and said, I'll lend you this for a day, or I'll bring in a form that you were missing to make the completed blocks, or I have a chandelier that was in my family. Would you like to have it? I would love to donate to this house. There's hundreds of little stories that from people who have brought things in or worked or donated their time or their talents. It was never a situation that people would give us, an extra $100,000. But what they did was encourage us to stay at it, to stay in this process, because it was, as I referred to in the last video, it was excruciating. But it was one day at a time, and how God met us. He said He started a good work in us, and He's continuing that on.
So you mentioned how there's so many things in this house that tell stories. How many stories could be told within this very house alone? Well,
we have tours, and we kind of devised a little thing called Tea and Tours for 10, and it's a 2-hour tour that people in their groups could come in, and I'll do a historical lecture, and I'll tell a story for about 35 minutes of just how it came to be, and some of those backgrounds and sidelights. But then we take them down and watch the video that you put together, and so that's 20 minutes, and then we
This is a shame because I don't know if anyone's noticed in the title screen, but the Deterioration to Renovation part of the title is misspelled.
That's okay.
That's a correction.
Nobody highlights that, but what they do is get a glimpse of when it goes back to the original picture on the site. There is always an audible gasp, because what they see now and what they saw of that original picture, it is frightfully, the discrepancy is huge.
What exactly, this is House of Five Missions, so we're kind of exploring what kind of keeps people who do what they do going, and why. What is the one or two things that really keep you going? I know you already touched on kind of the weight being kind of tough on you, but what kind of other things is it that keeps you going?
We try to start each day reading and pray together and spend some time wherever it's nice, here in the wintertime by the fire, out on the porch when it's nice or whatever, and not so much a powwow to plan all of our day, but just to start out gently and sense each other's heart and needs. It's been a big part of what keeps us sane. A lot of people in our family are big encouragements, and we do have good friends that are very encouraging just to have around. We love to go for walks with each other, with friends.
Riding horses.
We love to ride horses together.
I think one of the main things that cannot be minimized is the area of communication. And for Bruce and I, that has not been the best thing. And I believe in the last, I'd say, year to year and a half, that is something that has gotten better. And so I would say the area of communication is probably huge.
When I was with UPS, which was a long career, and doing a lot of the remodeling and the preparing for this house, it was very, very hard to just take the time to communicate, to think, to spend time with the family and with friends. And so being retired from that and kind of single-minded here has really made a dramatic change in my life. And I'm very, very thankful.
Now, Maureen, we discussed this prior to our conversation. At the end of Leavitt House, you mentioned a prayer, which I think you alluded to earlier, on that if one life is touched and if one life is changed, it's been worth it. Well, you've done tours for over 2,000 people, and I've lost track of how many guests you've had here since its opening in 2010. Which, by the way, has nothing to do with Special Olympics National Games. That's completely irrelevant and a completely different subject for LTCS Films fans. Has it been worth it?
I have redefined what worth is, because when you were interviewing me in 2006, I thought something that was worth it was something completely different than what it actually has been in these last 7 years. And has God been glorified? Yep. Over and over and over. Have people been brought closer in their relationship with the Lord? I have. He has. We all have. Have people come to new relationships? Not, I don't know specifically, but I believe there have been so many seeds planted that I think that there's probably a huge harvest going on. I don't know. So worth is having something completely, like I said, impossible. Saying to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, but it's not done in one big, like dunking a basketball. It's done by putting on a helmet and a lantern and getting a pickaxe and going through the mountain. And it's one day at a time, one step at a time. And yes, it has been worth it. Every bit of it.
Well, Bruce and Maureen, it's been absolutely terrific to talk to you. Unfortunately, we've chatted significantly longer than I expected, so we're not done. We are going to end this part of the chapter. On the flip side, we are going to get a chance to do a kind of a whip-around version of the tour with obviously well enough time for the archaeological facts, but we'll at least kind of get you a chance to kind of show you how far along it's been since 2006, and then I'm going to tell you right now, it's absolutely remarkable. So, a tour of the Prairie Creek Inn.
On and on, give up everything, leave without it. We are not coming back now.
The amount of oldness and antiqueness is something you absolutely cannot deny when you look through this house. But another thing you will notice is how different this was. I mean, you don't see much gray and probably as much annoying dust and dirt in here. This is well polished.